She was a simple cook in a millionaire's mansion, but when he lost everything, it was she who helped him rebuild his life. The aroma of freshly baked apple pie filled the sumptuous kitchen of the Hartley mansion. Olivia Mason, with her flowered apron and sparkling brown eyes, watched with satisfaction as steam rose from the golden, perfectly braided crust. At 35, Olivia wasn't just the Hartley family cook. She was the soul of the mansion, the one who turned simple ingredients into fond memories. On the other side of the kitchen door, Maxwell Hartley's world revolved around numbers, shares and ruthless business. But here, in this culinary sanctuary, time seemed to slow down, marked only by the soft ticking of the wall clock and the occasional bubbling of sauces on the stove. Olivia wiped her hands on her apron and smiled to herself. She knew that pie was Mr. Hartley's favorite, a small luxury he allowed himself in the midst of his hectic life as a real estate tycoon. With a fluid movement born of years of practice, she transferred the pie to a finely decorated porcelain plate. The sound of hurried footsteps echoed down the hallway, and Olivia looked up in time to see Amanda, the housekeeper, enter the kitchen with a worried expression. "Olivia, you're not going to believe this," Amanda whispered, her blue eyes wide. "I just heard Mr. Hartley on the phone. It seems that something terrible has happened to the business." Olivia frowned, gently placing her plate on the marble counter. "What do you mean, Amanda?" "Mr. Hartley always handles complicated business." Amanda shook her head, her blonde bun threatening to unravel with the movement. "No, that's different." He was shouting, "Olivia, I've never heard him like that before." Something about a market crash and all his investments going down the drain. A shiver ran down Olivia's spine. In her 5 years working for the Hartleys, she had witnessed ups and downs in business, but never anything that made the ever-composed Maxwell Hartley lose control. "Maybe it's just a temporary setback," Olivia suggested, more to calm herself than out of any real conviction. At that moment, the kitchen door opened violently, revealing Maxwell Hartley. His impeccable three-piece suit contrasted sharply with his disheveled expression and red eyes. He looked like he had aged a decade in a matter of hours. "Mr. Hartley," Olivia began, instinctively reaching out for the plate with the pie. "I just made your—" "There's no time for that now, Olivia," Maxwell interrupted, his voice hoarse. He ran a hand through his grey hair, a gesture Olivia had never seen him make before. "I need you two to assemble the entire team in the main room, right away." Without waiting for an answer, he spun on his heels and left, leaving a heavy silence in his wake. Olivia and Amanda exchanged worried glances before hurrying to carry out their orders. Within minutes, the entire staff of the Hartley mansion, from the gardener to the chauffeur, was gathered in the opulent main hall, whispering anxiously amongst themselves. Maxwell Hartley entered, and silence fell over the group. He watched them for a moment, his eyes passing over each familiar face before landing on Olivia, who was standing near the marble fireplace. I regret to inform you," he began, his voice trembling slightly, "that due to circumstances beyond my control, I will be forced to make significant changes to our operations." A murmur of concern ran through the room. Olivia felt her heart squeeze. "To be blunt," Maxwell continued, straightening his shoulders as if gathering strength, "I've lost practically everything. The mansion, the cars, the bank accounts, everything will be confiscated to cover debts and legal obligations." The shock was palpable. Olivia saw tears in the eyes of some of her colleagues, while others looked simply stunned. "You will all be duly compensated, of course," Maxwell added hastily. "But after the end of this week, I will no longer be able to employ any of you." The reality of the situation hit Olivia like a punch in the gut. It wasn't just about losing a job, it was about a family being torn apart. Because that's what they were, a quirky, diverse family, united under the roof of the Hartley mansion. As the others began to disperse, murmuring quietly and wiping away tears, Olivia remained motionless, watching Maxwell. The man who had always seemed invincible now looked small and defeated, his shoulders slumped under the weight of his loss. Without a second thought, Olivia approached him. "Mr. Hartley," she said softly, touching his arm. "Why don't you come with me into the kitchen? I think we could all use a slice of that apple pie right now." Maxwell looked at her, surprised, as if he had forgotten she was there. For a moment, it looked like he was going to refuse, but then something in his eyes changed. "Yes," he said softly. "Yes, I think I'd like that, Olivia." As they walked towards the kitchen, Olivia felt a determination grow inside her. She didn't know how, but somehow she would find a way to help this man who, despite all his mistakes and eccentricities, had been a good boss. And maybe, just maybe, in the process, she would discover a strength in herself that she didn't even know she possessed. The apple pie was slowly cooling on the counter, its aroma a bittersweet reminder of simpler times. But for Olivia, it was more than that. It was a promise, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there was still sweetness to be found and shared. The sun had barely risen when Olivia arrived at the Hartley mansion the following morning. Dew still covered the impeccably trimmed lawn, reflecting the golden light of dawn. She hesitated for a moment before using her key. Did she still have the right to enter like this, now that everything was changing? Shaking her head to dispel such thoughts, Olivia entered. The mansion was strangely silent, as if the building itself was in mourning. She made her way to the kitchen, her sanctuary, determined to start the day as she always did, preparing breakfast for the Hartley family. To her surprise, Maxwell was already sitting at the kitchen table, his eyes fixed on an untouched cup of coffee. He looked up when Olivia entered, and she was struck by the vulnerability in his eyes. "Good morning, Mr. Hartley," she said softly, hanging up her coat. "You're an early riser today." Maxwell let out a bitter laugh. "To be honest, Olivia, I didn't even sleep. How could I, with my whole world falling apart?" Olivia felt a pang in her heart. Without saying a word, she began to prepare the pancake batter, Maxwell's favorite breakfast on the Sundays of her childhood, as he had once casually mentioned. "Mr. Hartley," she began, measuring the flour precisely, "I know it's none of my business, but is there anything we can do? Any way of reversing this?" Maxwell sighed deeply, rubbing his temples. "It's complicated, Olivia. I made some risky investments, trusting the wrong people. When the market crashed, I lost practically everything. The debts, they're astronomical." Olivia nodded, whisking the eggs in the bowl. "I see. But you built this empire once. Couldn't you do it again?" For a moment, a glimmer of the old Maxwell shone in her eyes. "Maybe. But where would I start? All my contacts, my resources, everything's gone." "Start at the beginning," Olivia said simply, pouring the first pancake into the pan. The sweet aroma filled the kitchen. "How did you start the first time?" Maxwell was silent for a long moment, lost in his memories. I started by selling houses, small properties in the suburbs. Nothing glamorous, but it was honest, and it gave me a base." Olivia smiled, flipping the golden pancake. "Well, there you go. Maybe it's time to get back to my roots." As she spoke, Amanda entered the kitchen, her eyes swollen from crying. "Mr. Hartley, the lawyers are on the phone. They want to know about the sale of the mansion." Maxwell closed his eyes, the reality of his situation hitting him again. Olivia, sensing the tension in the air, quickly placed a plate of steaming pancakes in front of him. "Eat first," she insisted gently. "Things always look a bit better on a full stomach." Maxwell looked down at his plate, a sad smile playing on his lips. "Pancakes, like my mother used to make." "Exactly," Olivia said with a warm smile. "Sometimes we need to remember where we came from to know where we're going." While Maxwell ate, Olivia and Amanda exchanged worried glances. The housekeeper approached Olivia, whispering, "What are we going to do?" "Everyone's panicking. Half the staff are already looking for new jobs." Olivia bit her lip thoughtfully. Maybe we can help in some way. Not just Mr. Hartley, but each other." An idea began to form in her mind. It was bold, perhaps even crazy, but in these desperate times, what did they have to lose? "Amanda," Olivia said softly, "gather the whole team in the living room in an hour. I have a proposal for all of us." The next hour passed in a blur of activity. Olivia ran around the mansion, making mental notes of everything she saw, every object of value, every skill the team members possessed. everything could be useful in some way. When everyone was gathered in the living room, the air was charged with anxiety and anticipation. Olivia stood before them, feeling the weight of all the stares. "I know we're all scared and uncertain about the future," she began, her voice steady despite the nervousness she felt. "But what if, instead of splitting up, we came together to help Mr. Hartley rebuild, and in the process, maybe we could build something for ourselves too?" A murmur of confusion ran through the room. Maxwell, sitting in his favorite armchair, looked at Olivia with a mixture of surprise and curiosity. "What are you proposing, Olivia?" he asked. She took a deep breath. "A cooperative. We use our skills, our contacts, to help you get back into the real estate market. In return, we all become partners in the new venture." The silence that followed was deafening. Then, slowly, voices began to rise. "I have a cousin who works in construction," said the gardener, scratching his head. "My sister is a real estate agent," added the maid shyly. Maxwell stood up, looking around the room with an astonished expression. Would you do that? For me?" Olivia stepped forward, placing a comforting hand on Maxwell's arm. "Not just for you, Mr. Hartley, for all of us. This mansion isn't just a place of work, it's our home, and a family takes care of each other." Tears glistened in Maxwell's eyes. For the first time since the crisis began, a real smile lit up his face. I don't know what to say." "Say you're in," Olivia replied with a smile, "because we have a lot of work ahead of us." As the room exploded into animated discussions and planning, Olivia felt a surge of hope. She knew that the road ahead would be difficult, full of obstacles and uncertainties, but looking at the faces around her, faces that until yesterday were just co-workers and now looked like a close-knit family, she knew they had a chance. The scent of pancakes still hung in the air, a reminder of the comfort of home and the possibilities that arise when people come together. And in that moment, Olivia knew that no matter what happened, they would face it together. Maxwell Hartley's office, once a sanctuary of luxury and power, now resembled more of a makeshift headquarters. Maps of the city covered the walls, colored post-its marked potential properties, and the mahogany desk was cluttered with papers and half-empty cups of coffee. Olivia was standing by the window, watching the movement in the street below. 2 weeks had passed since the meeting in the living room, and the frenetic pace of activity hadn't slowed down one bit. "I got a call from the bank this morning." Maxwell's voice snapped her out of her thoughts. She turned to face him, noticing the dark circles under his eyes, but also the renewed glow of determination. "They've agreed to postpone the sale of the mansion for another 60 days. Olivia let out a sigh of relief. "That's great, Mr. Hartley. It gives us more time to put our plan into action." Maxwell nodded, a tired smile playing on his lips. "It's all thanks to you, Olivia. Your idea, well, it gave us a chance." Before Olivia could reply, the office door opened and Amanda walked in, followed by Ryan, the former driver, now in charge of the logistics of their operations. "We've got news," Amanda announced, placing a folder on the table. Ryan found a set of abandoned houses in the Oakwood neighborhood. The owner is desperate to sell. Maxwell leaned over the folder, his eyes quickly scanning the details. "Interesting. But we'd need capital for the renovation." "I've already thought of that," Ryan interjected, his enthusiasm evident. "My cousin, the builder I mentioned, he's agreed to do the work at cost in exchange for a small share of the profit from the sale." Olivia felt a surge of pride. Everyone was outdoing themselves, using their contacts and skills in ways they had never imagined before. "That's excellent," Maxwell said, a genuine smile lighting up his face. "But we still have the problem of startup funding." A heavy silence fell over the room. It was Olivia who broke it. "What about Mrs. Hartley's jewels?" she suggested hesitantly. All eyes turned to her. "I know they have sentimental value, Mr. Hartley, but—" Maxwell tensed for a moment, his eyes straying to the photo of his late wife on the table. Then, slowly, he nodded. "You're right, Olivia. Caroline. She would understand. She always said that jewels were just pretty stones if they weren't used for something meaningful." With this decision, a renewed energy seemed to take hold of the group. The next few hours were a whirlwind of planning, phone calls, and organization. As the sun began to set, tinging the sky with orange hues, Olivia found herself back in the kitchen, preparing a meal for the exhausted but excited group. "You know," said Maxwell, entering the kitchen and leaning on the counter, "I never thought I'd be so excited about the idea of selling some suburban houses again. It feels like I've gone back 30 years in time." Olivia smiled, stirring the sauce she was preparing. "Sometimes getting back to your roots is exactly what you need to grow again." "Wise words," Maxwell commented, taking a carrot from the chopping board and chewing thoughtfully. "Olivia, can I ask you a personal question?" She nodded, curious. "Why are you doing all this? You could easily find another job as a chef. Why risk everything for me?" Olivia stopped what she was doing, reflecting for a moment. "Mr. Hartley, when I first came to work here, I was going through a difficult time in my life. I'd just lost my parents. I was alone in the world. You and this house. You gave me more than a job. You gave me a home, a family." She turned to face him, her eyes shining with restrained emotion. "So I'm not just doing this for you. I'm doing it for all of us, for the family we've built here." Maxwell was silent for a long moment, visibly moved. Finally, he reached out and gently squeezed Olivia's shoulder. "Thank you," he said simply, his voice hoarse. The moment was interrupted by the sound of hurried footsteps. Amanda burst into the kitchen, out of breath. "You won't believe it," she exclaimed. "Remember that abandoned lot by the river? Well, I've just found out that the city council is planning a major revitalization project in the area. If we can buy that land now..." Maxwell's eyes widened with realization. "We could be at the center of one of the biggest real estate developments in the city." "Exactly," Amanda agreed, practically jumping up and down with excitement. Olivia watched the scene with a mixture of hope and apprehension. It was an incredible opportunity, but also a big risk. They would have to act fast and invest practically everything they had. "What do you think, Olivia?" Maxwell asked, turning to her. "Should we take a chance?" She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the decision. This could be the moment that would define the success or failure of all their efforts. "I think," she began slowly, "that sometimes you need to break a few eggs to make an omelette." Maxwell laughed, the sound full of relief and gratitude. "Well then, I guess we'd better start breaking some eggs." As the group gathered around the kitchen table, poring over maps and making excited plans, Olivia felt a wave of excitement hit her. They still had a long road ahead of them, full of uncertainties and challenges. But at that moment, with the smell of home-cooked food in the air and the sound of laughter and ideas being shared, she knew they were on the right track. The Hartley mansion, once a symbol of wealth and status, was becoming something much more valuable, a place of hope, togetherness, and new beginnings. And Olivia, the simple cook who had become the heart of this new family, was determined to see this transformation through to the end, no matter what the future held. The rain pelted the windows of the Hartley mansion, as if the sky itself was trying to wash away the memories of the past. Inside, in what used to be the formal dining room and now served as a makeshift command center, Olivia watched Maxwell pace back and forth, the phone pressed against his ear. "No, we can't wait another week," he said, frustration evident in his voice. "The deal needs to be done now or we'll lose the opportunity." Olivia exchanged worried glances with Amanda, who was nervously biting the end of her pencil. The last few weeks had been a roller coaster of emotions and challenges. The land near the river, which had seemed to be their big chance, was proving to be more complicated to acquire than they had imagined. Maxwell hung up the phone with a heavy sigh, running his hand through his grey hair. "The seller is hesitating. I think he's realized the potential of the land and is trying to raise the price. But we don't have any more resources to offer," Amanda said, her voice shaking. "We've already invested everything we had." The silence that followed was heavy with worry and doubt. It was Olivia who broke it, her voice soft but determined. "What if we offered something other than money?" she suggested, attracting everyone's curious glances. "Mr. Hartley, you mentioned that the seller, Mr. Thompson, has a daughter who dreams of being a chef, right?" Maxwell nodded slowly, understanding beginning to shine in his eyes. "Yes, He mentioned that in one of our conversations. But what does that have to do with, what if we offered her an exclusive internship? Olivia continued, her mind working quickly. We could promise to train her personally, use my contacts in the industry to open doors for her. That could be the differentiator Mr. Thompson is looking for. The room erupted in animated discussion. Olivia's idea not only offered a solution to their immediate problem, but also opened up new possibilities for the future. "Olivia, you're brilliant," Maxwell exclaimed, a genuine smile lighting up his tired face. He turned to Amanda. "Call Mr. Thompson immediately. Tell him we have an offer he can't refuse." As Amanda rushed to make the call, Olivia felt a mixture of pride and apprehension. Her idea could be the key to unlocking the project's full potential, but it also meant a significant personal commitment on her part. The next few hours were a whirlwind of negotiations, planning and, finally, celebration when Mr. Thompson accepted the offer. The land was theirs. It was late at night when the team finally dispersed, exhausted but elated. Olivia remained in the kitchen, preparing a light meal for those who were still around. "You never stop, do you?" Maxwell's voice surprised her. He was standing in the kitchen doorway, watching her with an expression she couldn't decipher. Olivia smiled, continuing to chop vegetables. "Old habits are hard to break, Mr. Hartley. Besides, everyone needs to eat, especially after a day like today." Maxwell approached, picking up a knife and starting to help her cut, a gesture that would have been unthinkable just a few months ago. "You know, Olivia, I've been thinking a lot about all this, about how things have changed, about how amazing you've all been." Olivia stopped what she was doing, turning to face him. There was a vulnerability in his eyes that she rarely saw. "I've spent most of my life building an empire," Maxwell continued, his voice low. "I thought that was all that mattered. Money, power, status. But now I realize that the real treasure was right here all along." Olivia felt her throat tighten with emotion. "Mr. Hartley." "Maxwell," he interrupted her gently. "I guess after all we've been through, you can call me Maxwell." She nodded, a shy smile playing on her lips. "Maxwell. We're all just doing what's right. This house, this family we've built here, it's worth fighting for." For a moment, they were silent, the only sound being the rain pattering on the windows and the gentle bubbling of soup on the stove. Then Maxwell did something that took Olivia completely by surprise. He hugged her. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice tinged with emotion. "For not giving up on me. For believing that we could do this." Olivia returned the hug, feeling the tears that threatened to fall. When they separated, they both laughed, a little embarrassed, but deeply connected. The moment was interrupted by the sound of hurried footsteps. Ryan entered the kitchen, his eyes shining with excitement. "You won't believe it," he exclaimed. "I've just spoken to my cousin, the builder. He has a team available to start work on the land immediately. If we act fast, we can have the first structures ready before winter." The news was like a shot of adrenaline. Suddenly, the kitchen was full of life again, with plans being made and ideas being shared. As the evening progressed, the storm outside began to subside. Olivia found herself by the window again, watching the clouds disperse, revealing a starry sky. It was a new beginning, she thought, not just for the project or for Maxwell, but for all of them. The foundations they were building were not just of concrete and steel, but of trust, friendship, and hope. The road ahead would still be challenging, she knew. There would be obstacles, doubts, and moments of fear. But looking at the group gathered in the kitchen, laughing and dreaming together, Olivia felt a deep certainty. Together, they could weather any storm. And as the aroma of freshly prepared soup filled the air, mingling with the smell of rain and the promises of a new day, Olivia knew that no matter what the future held, they would face it together, as the family they had become. The sound of hammers and chainsaws echoed through the air, mingling with the excited buzz of voices. Olivia walked through the construction site of what had once been just an abandoned plot of land by the river, now transformed into an anthill of activity. It had been 3 months since they had acquired the property, and progress was visible in every corner. Structures were beginning to take shape. promising a bright future for what they now affectionately called the Renaissance Project. "Olivia," Maxwell's voice called out to her. She saw him waving from near a group of workers, a yellow safety helmet contrasting with his impeccable suit. She smiled, noticing how much younger he looked, more energetic than he had been for months. "What do you think?" he asked excitedly as she approached, gesturing to the surroundings. "It's starting to look like a real neighborhood, isn't it?" Olivia nodded, taking in the view. "It's incredible, Maxwell. I can hardly believe how much we've accomplished in such a short time." He smiled, a glint of pride in his eyes. "It's all thanks to you and the team. Speaking of which, how's Mr. Thompson's daughter's training going?" "Better than I expected," Olivia replied, a satisfied smile on her face. "Lily's a natural. I'm thinking of taking her to some catering events we have planned for next month." Maxwell was about to reply when they were interrupted by Amanda, who approached hurriedly, her face a mask of concern. "Mr. Hartley." "Maxwell," she corrected herself, still getting used to the new informality. "We have a problem. The zoning commission is questioning our permits for the commercial area." Maxwell's smile disappeared, replaced by an expression of determination. "I see. Let's go to the office and discuss it." As they walked back to the trailer that served as their temporary office, Olivia couldn't help but notice how the dynamic between them had changed. It was no longer just Maxwell making decisions alone. It was a truly collaborative effort. Inside the trailer, Ryan was already waiting for them with a pile of documents. "Apparently," he began without preamble, "there's been a change in local regulations that affects our plans for the stores and cafes." Maxwell frowned, flipping through the papers. "This could delay the whole project. The commercial areas are crucial for attracting residents and investors." Olivia bit her lip thoughtfully. "What if we approach this in a different way?" All eyes turned to her. "Instead of fighting the new regulations, we could adapt our plans, turn some of the commercial areas into community spaces, perhaps, an arts center, a library." "That could work," Amanda said slowly, her eyes lighting up. "In fact, it could even improve our image with the local community." Maxwell nodded, a smile beginning to form. "Olivia, once again you see opportunities where others would only see obstacles. Let's get to work on it." The next few hours were a whirlwind of planning, redesigning, and phone calls. When they finally emerged from the trailer, the sun was already setting, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. Olivia moved a little away from the group, needing a moment to take it all in. She found herself at the edge of the river, watching the reflection of the construction site lights in the water. "A penny for your thoughts," Maxwell's voice sounded softly behind her. She turned around, smiling tiredly. "Just reflecting on how much things have changed," she replied. 6 months ago, I was just your cook now. Now you're the heart and soul of this project," Maxwell added, his tone laden with admiration. "Olivia, there's something I've been wanting to tell you for a while." She looked at him curiously, noticing an unusual hesitation in his posture. "I've realized," he continued, his voice low, "that my feelings for you have changed. They've evolved into something deeper than friendship or gratitude." Olivia's heart leapt. She had noticed the growing closeness between them, but hearing Maxwell express it in words was something completely different. "Maxwell, But before she could reply, they were interrupted by the sound of sirens. Turning around, they saw several fire engines rapidly approaching the construction site. "What's going on?" Olivia asked, panic growing in her voice. They rushed back to the site, only to see flames licking at one of the newly built structures. Workers were running in all directions, some carrying fire extinguishers, others simply trying to get away from the danger. "How did this happen?" Maxwell shouted, his voice almost lost in the chaos. Amanda appeared beside them, panting. "It looks like it was a short circuit in one of the generators. It's spreading fast." Olivia watched in horror as the flames consumed months of hard work, but amidst the shock, she felt a fierce determination grow inside her. "This won't bring us down," she said, her voice firm. "We'll rebuild, better and stronger." Maxwell looked at her, admiration and something else shining in his eyes. "You're right," he agreed, squeezing her hand. "Together, we can overcome anything." As the firefighters battled the flames and night fell over the burning construction site, Olivia knew they would face difficult days ahead. But looking at the people around her, Maxwell, Amanda, Ryan, and all the others who had become her family, she felt an unshakable certainty. This wasn't the end. It was just another challenge to overcome, and together they would overcome it, just as they had overcome all the others. The fire might have destroyed part of their dreams, but the foundations they had built, of trust, love, and determination, remained intact. And on those foundations, they would rebuild, not just a real estate project, but a bright future for all of them. The aroma of fresh coffee filled the air of the makeshift kitchen in the construction site trailer. Olivia was absent-mindedly stirring a cup, her eyes fixed on the window overlooking the site of the fire. A week had passed since that fateful night, and the ashes still seemed to hang heavy in the air. "Good morning," Maxwell's voice brought her out of her thoughts. He came in, looking tired but determined. "Sleep well," Olivia shrugged, a faint smile on her lips. "As much as possible, considering the circumstances," Maxwell nodded, understanding. The silence that followed was laden with unspoken words, memories of the interrupted conversation by the river. "Olivia, about what I said before the fire," Maxwell began hesitantly, but before he could continue, they were interrupted by Amanda's abrupt entrance, her eyes shining with excitement. "You won't believe it. I've just spoken to the mayor's office. They want to meet us this afternoon." The news acted like a catalyst, immediately energizing the atmosphere. The next few hours were a flurry of preparations, document review, and strategic discussions. When they finally arrived at the mayor's office, Olivia felt a mixture of nervousness and determination. This meeting could be the key to saving the Renaissance project. The mayor, a middle-aged man with an engaging smile, welcomed them warmly. "Mr. Hartley, Ms. Mason, thank you for coming. The fire was a tragedy, but I see an opportunity here." Maxwell and Olivia exchanged puzzled glances. "You see," the mayor continued, "this incident has brought home just how much the community already cares about your project. We've had dozens of locals offering to help rebuild." Olivia felt a wave of emotion hit her. They had touched lives beyond what they had imagined. "I propose a partnership," the mayor announced. "The city will provide additional resources and streamline the bureaucratic processes. In return, we would like to see an even greater commitment to community spaces and affordable housing." The next 2 hours were intense, with negotiations, adjustments to plans, and shared visions for the future of the neighborhood. When they finally left the office, Olivia and Maxwell were exhausted but elated. "I can't believe it," Olivia muttered as they walked back to the car. "This changes everything." Maxwell nodded, a genuine smile lighting up his tired face. "It's more than we could have hoped for. And it's all thanks to you, Olivia." She looked at him, surprised. "Me?" "Yes," he said, stopping to look at her. "It was your idea from the start to turn this into something bigger than just a real estate development. You saw the potential to build a real community." Olivia felt the blush rise to her cheeks, but before she could reply, Maxwell's cell phone rang. It was Ryan, with urgent news from the construction site. The rest of the day passed in a blur of activity. News of the partnership with the city spread quickly, bringing a renewed wave of energy and optimism. Volunteers began to show up, offering to help with the cleanup and reconstruction. It wasn't until late afternoon, as the sun began to set, tinting the sky in golden hues, that Olivia finally had a moment to breathe. She found herself once again by the river, the place that seemed to have become her personal refuge. "I thought I'd find you here." Maxwell's voice sounded softly behind her. She turned around, smiling. "It's been quite a day, hasn't it?" she commented. Maxwell nodded, moving closer to stand next to her. "Olivia, there's something I need to say, something I've been putting off for far too long." She felt her heart racing, remembering the interrupted conversation a week ago. "When I lost everything," Maxwell began, his voice heavy with emotion, "I thought my life was over. But you showed me that there was so much more than money and status. You taught me the value of community, of the family we choose." He took her hands in his eyes fixed on hers. "I fell in love with you, Olivia. Not the cook who worked for me, but the incredible, compassionate and determined woman you are." Olivia felt tears forming in her eyes. "Maxwell, But before she could continue, they were interrupted by the sound of applause. Turning around, they saw the whole team, Amanda, Ryan, and everyone else, standing a short distance away, wide smiles on their faces. "It's about time," Amanda shouted, laughing. Olivia and Maxwell laughed, a little embarrassed, but deeply happy. In that moment, surrounded by those who had become her family, with the sun setting over the river and the construction site in the background, Olivia felt a wave of gratitude and love wash over her. "I love you too," she whispered to Maxwell, before turning to the group. "All of you, this family we've built, this dream we're realizing together, it's more than I could ever have imagined." As the group gathered for a collective hug, Olivia knew that no matter what challenges the future held, they would face them together. The Renaissance Project wasn't just about rebuilding a neighborhood, it was about rebuilding lives, creating connections and turning tragedy into triumph. And there, on the banks of the river that had once seemed to represent the end of a dream, Olivia saw the beginning of something much bigger. A bright future, built on the foundations of love, community, and the unwavering determination of a group of people who refused to give up. The sun finally set, but for Olivia, Maxwell, and their makeshift family, a new day was just beginning. The morning sun cast a golden glow over the newly paved streets of the Renaissance neighborhood. Olivia Mason paused for a moment, taking a deep breath of the fresh spring air, letting the reality of what they had achieved in the last 18 months envelop her completely. Where once there was an abandoned lot and shattered dreams, now stood a vibrant community. Colorful houses lined the tree-lined streets, small local businesses flourished on the corners, and at the center of it all, a community park teemed with life and the laughter of children. Olivia walked slowly towards the building that had become the beating heart of the neighborhood, the Hartley Community Center. The name still made her smile, reminding her of how Maxwell had insisted that it take her surname, not his. As she entered the building, she was greeted by a flurry of activity. Volunteers were running around, hanging banners and organizing tables. Today was the day of the official grand opening, and the excitement was palpable in the air. "Olivia!" The excited voice of Lily, Mr. Thompson's daughter, called out to her. The young chef, now a graduate and in charge of the community center's kitchen, ran up to her. "Everything's ready in the kitchen. I can't wait for everyone to try the menu we've created." Olivia smiled proudly. "I'm sure it'll be a success, Lily. You've outdone yourself." As they walked through the center, Olivia couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought them there. Every challenge, every obstacle, had only strengthened their resolve and the bonds between them. "There you are." Maxwell's warm voice brought her out of her thoughts. He moved closer, wrapping her in a loving embrace. "I've been looking all over for you." Olivia snuggled into his arms, still amazed at how much their lives had changed. "I was just doing one last check. Can you believe I'm a bit nervous?" Maxwell laughed softly. "After all we've been through, a little opening ceremony makes you nervous?" She shrugged, smiling. "It's different. It's the culmination of everything we've worked for." Before Maxwell could reply, they were interrupted by the boisterous arrival of Amanda and Ryan. "Sorry to interrupt," Amanda said breathlessly, "but the first guests are already arriving, and you won't believe who's just confirmed their attendance." Ryan, barely containing his excitement, added, "The governor. Apparently, the Renaissance Project has attracted attention at state level. They're considering using our model in other cities." The news was like a shockwave. Olivia and Maxwell looked at each other, a mixture of surprise and pride in their eyes. The next few hours passed in a whirlwind of emotions. The opening ceremony went beyond all expectations. Local residents, city officials, and even state personalities gathered to celebrate what many called an urban miracle. When it came time for Olivia to make her speech, she felt a lump in her throat. Looking out into the crowd, she saw familiar faces, not only her original Hartley Mansion team, but also the new friends and neighbors who had joined them along the way. 2 years ago, she began, her voice trembling slightly. "I was just a cook in a mansion. Today I stand before you not as a maid, not as a businesswoman, but as part of a family that we chose, that we built together." She paused, searching the crowd for Maxwell's gaze. He nodded encouragingly, his eyes shining with pride and love. "The Renaissance Project isn't just about buildings or businesses," Olivia continued. "It's about people. It's about second beginnings and the strength we find in each other. When we lose everything, we discover that what really matters can't be measured in dollars or property titles." Tears began to form in her eyes, but Olivia let them fall freely. "Look around. Look at what we've built together. This isn't just a neighborhood. It's a testament to what we can achieve when we come together, when we believe not just in our dreams, but in each other's dreams." As she concluded her speech, a wave of applause washed over the venue. Olivia descended from the stage, immediately enveloped in a collective hug from her team. No, her family. The party that followed was a celebration of life, love, and community. As night fell, Olivia found herself once again by the river, the place where so many crucial moments had taken place. Maxwell joined her, entwining his fingers in hers. "A penny for your thoughts," he said softly. Olivia smiled, leaning back against him. "I'm thinking about how funny life is. 2 years ago, I thought I'd lost everything when the mansion went bankrupt. Now I realize it was just the beginning of something much bigger." Maxwell nodded, pulling her closer. "You know, I always thought my legacy would be the skyscrapers I built or the deals I closed. But this is much more significant." They stood in silence for a moment, watching the lights of the Renaissance district reflected in the calm waters of the river. Suddenly, Olivia turned to Maxwell, a mischievous glint in her eyes. "So, Mr. Hartley, what do you say we build another legacy together?" Maxwell arched an eyebrow, intrigued. "What do you have in mind, Miss Mason?" With a radiant smile, Olivia took Maxwell's hand and placed it gently on her stomach. Maxwell's eyes widened in understanding, a smile of pure joy spreading across his face. "Olivia, we—" She nodded, tears of happiness shining in her eyes. "It looks like our family is about to grow a little more." As they hugged, the laughter and music of the party in the background mixing with the gentle murmur of the river, Olivia knew for sure. This was their true happily ever after. Not an ending, but a new beginning full of promise and possibility. The Renaissance Project had begun as a desperate attempt to save a lost fortune. But in the process, they had found something far more valuable: love, family, and a sense of purpose that no amount of money could buy. And as Olivia and Maxwell walked back to the celebration, hand in hand and hearts full, they knew that the true taste of success lay not in the gourmet dishes she had once prepared at the Hartley mansion, but in the sweetness of the moments shared, the tears overcome together, and the promise of a bright future they had built, not just for themselves, but for an entire community. The sun had set on one era of their lives, but a new day was dawning, and with it, the certainty that, no matter what the future held, they would face it together, as the family they had become, in the heart of the neighborhood they had resurrected from the ashes of shattered dreams. If this story touched your heart, then don't forget to leave a like. Use the super thanks located just below the video to directly support the channel and help create more amazing content. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any updates. Now don't miss the next incredible story that's appearing on your screen. I greatly appreciate your support and hope to see you soon. Thank you for watching.